Hi and welcome to my booktube channel. So, in 2022, I decided that I was going to read all of the books by Stephen King. I am a completionist when it comes to reading. I like to create lists and to complete everything on that list. And in regards to books, if I find an author that I really like, I will most likely read all of their work. I just can't help it. It's a compulsion, an obsession, superpower. I don't know. It's just like I feel like I have to do it. I get such an endorphin kick from finishing a list of an author's novels. It just, yeah. But yeah, so I decided I was gonna read all of the books by Stephen King, both that he published under his own name, but also the ones that he published as Richard Bachman, which was a pen name that he sometimes, I don't know if he still uses it, but he used it quite a lot back in the day. So actually, when I made that decision, I did not know that he had published 65 novels and novellas, and I think over, at least at the time when I was doing the research, that was the number. I think he's published maybe one or two since then, so 67, and over 200 short stories. And although I have now completed all of the works of Agatha Christie, which are 66 novels and 14 short story collection, if I'm correct. So that's about the same, or more or less. But if you notice, maybe if you look at Stephen King's books and Agatha Christie's books, Stephen King's books tend to be a little bit longer, so they are often quite long, compared to Agatha Christie for sure. Anyway, the goal was set, I was prepared, and I was gonna go through with it. I was going to read all of Stephen King. It was the spring of 2022, and I looked forward to it. I looked forward to reading Stephen King throughout the summer while I was on my summer holiday and just enjoying life. Yeah, but as a completionist, I am very weirdly obsessed with starting at the beginning. So I like to go in order of publication. I will sometimes break that if I'm reading a series that is interconnected, and there is a prequel that is published later, and then if I'm reading or rereading a series, I will often start with a prequel, even though it was published after it. Anyway, but generally said, if people are just writing novels that are not necessarily interconnected, I go in order of publication. And so I thought I would do that with Stephen King in chronological order. Yeah, so I decided not only to read all of Stephen King, I decided to read them in publication order. From starting with his first novel that was published in 1974, and going up to modern days. I didn't have a time limit on this goal, so it probably was going to take me a few years, and that was fine. But I did, however, very soon discover a problem. I have this kind of desire, I don't know what the word I should use, but I like to read books that are written in English in English. I'm a fluent reader of English, and so I just prefer to read books in the English language, in the original English language. And I could easily access all of the Stephen King books here at the local library. I live in Iceland, in case you didn't know. I could read them translated to Icelandic. My parents own a couple of copies. I own one copy here, and so it would be very easy for me to access all of his books, because all of his books have been translated into Icelandic. He's quite popular here as everywhere else. But I didn't want to read his books in Icelandic. I wanted to read them in English because I can. And like I just have this fixation. I read English books in English. I also speak Norwegian, so I like to read Norwegian books in Norwegian and Icelandic books obviously in Icelandic. And then other languages I will read either in English or Icelandic, depending on what I have access to at the time. Anyway, so if I possibly can, I like to read the words of the author and not the translator. Yeah, that's just a rule I have. I don't know. I don't know. It's just something that I enjoy doing. So getting a hold of Stephen King's oldest books here in Iceland in English is not as easy as it may sound. The library did have and does have some of them for sure. I did listen to some of them on audiobook. My audio book app had a few of them, but I could not get all of the books. There were a few books in between in the publication order that I did not have access to. And I need to maybe rethink my fixation with reading them in English and just trying to get them in Icelandic. But at least in this first round of reading Stephen King, I skipped those books. Hoping to get to them at some point. It's a point of irritation for me to have unfinished books in between finished books, but I'm gonna try to move on. So today I'm gonna talk about 7 books. 5 of those I finished reading, and 2 of them I actually DNF'd. But I didn't DNF them because I didn't like them. There were other circumstances that I will go into as I go, into that. And I'm just gonna also just briefly mention the title of the books that I didn't get in order to read, and that I would like to read at some point. So let's get started. In publication order, I started with Carrie. This is Stephen King's debut novel, his first book. It was published in 1974, and I read it as a physical book. I don't have the copy because I read it in 2022, so I've already handed it into the library. But this is definitely a book I would like to own a physical copy of. Because I really like this book. Actually, I think I really loved this book. I really liked the multiple POVs, the multiple points of views from the characters. I really liked kind of this suspenseful build-up of the climax and the underlying terror I think that Carrie was feeling, both as she was being kind of bullied and mistreated at school, but also from her mother, who was I'm assuming that you know what this book is about. I'm not necessarily going to go into the plot of the books in this discussion, But anyway, so Carrie was being bullied at school, and she was being abused at home by her fanatically religious, psychotic mother, or psychopathic mother. Yeah. Anyway, so, and Stephen King just kind of writes that that fear, and just it's so good. It's so good. And like I said, with the different POVs, I like how it's like sometimes you're seeing things from Carrie's point of view, and then other characters that are also like police reports and or notes from like the school. It's just it's brilliant. It's brilliant, and I really enjoyed it, and it was really nice to see the other characters' point of view and their like experiences. This was very, very strong start to reading Stephen King, because I had never read any of his books. I've seen several of his films, obviously everybody has, but I hadn't read any of the books. So this was like, I was in heaven. This was excellent start. And I also liked the 1976 movie that I remember seeing at some point. I mean, that actress. I think that she was just Carrie personified. Like, anyway, I really like this book, and I think the movie captures the book as very well as well, and highly recommend this book. 5 stars. The next book that I read and finished was Salem's Lot, published in 1975, the year I was born as well. So this was also a physical book that I got from the library, and it's like huge, yeah, big book, way too big. It was very scary. Parts of it was very scary. I am quite the scaredy cat. I get easily scared of the dark, and this was almost making me scared of the dark. It helped that I was reading it in the Icelandic summer, which is very like 24-hour daylight. I think the description of the vampires, they were very scary, and I also like the angst and the grief and the horror of the families, and just the mystery surrounding everything that was happening. Excellent. But this book was just too long. Like, there were just like parts of it that I was just like yeah, very boring at times. But I'm giving it 3 stars, because the parts that were good were really good. And this is how I like vampires. Very Dracula-like kind of vampires. Yeah, it was really, really, that fiction of the book, that part of the book, the vampires and all the scariness, and it was really well done. It's just, it didn't need to be so long. I'm sorry. The third book in publication order was The Shining. This is probably, I would say, the most famous book by Stephen King. Maybe this one and It. I don't know. It was published in 1977 and was obviously next on my list. I got it from the library as a physical copy, but I couldn't read it. It was too scary. I got into chapter 2, and then all I could see were the twins in the hotel corridor. Nope. Putting it in the freezer didn't work. Yeah, I'm still too traumatized after seeing the movie. I was probably too young when I first saw the movie, but that book, so scary. And just, I'm sure it's because I saw the movie and it terrified me, and I can still remember that like 35 years later or something. That when just in the first couple of chapters, he was it may have been even the first chapter, because he was just, Johnny, what the father, I don't remember even his name. Johnny, right? Johnny. He was in the job interview to get the job. They weren't even at the hotel yet, or the location. And the guy was telling him about the previous groundskeeper, hotel keeper person, and that he had 2 twin daughters, and that like all I could see were those. Yeah. I'm sorry, I couldn't read it, but I am determined to conquer my fear at some point, and I will read this book before I die. It's on my bucket list, but yeah, but for now, it's a soft DNF. The two next books, which is Rage, which was published in 1977 under the name of Richard Bachman, and The Stand, published in 1978, I could not get my hands on. I looked everywhere. I scoured all the like used books here and like these charity shops and the libraries and everything. And I really did not want to go and buy them on Amazon or something like that. I really am trying not to buy books unless I really love them and I really want to own them. And I just didn't want to take the chance because I really hadn't heard about these books at all. So yeah, I couldn't find them as an audiobook either. I looked and looked like on my audio book app. I also like try to find like a torrent, like went that route as well, but couldn't find them. I'm sorry. So I don't know. Maybe at some point I will find them or get my hands on them. Maybe if I'm in like accidentally somewhere and I find them in like a charity shop or a flea market, it would be fantastic. But unfortunately, they will have to wait for now. The next book on the list was The Long Walk, published in 1979 as Richard Bachman. And I listened to this as an audiobook. And I don't know what I expected, but I definitely did not expect what I got. What a ride. That book, yeah. So it's a dystopian society type of a place, and in New England still, and basically it's just a long walk. The book is about what the title says. Yeah, the things that happen in that long walk are just crazy, and he is so good, Stephen King, I think, in building up this suspense and this almost like terror. What is gonna happen next? Like you're just like, oh my god, what are you gonna? Because you really start to like the characters and you get invested in the characters, and anyway, I've heard when I was like I googled this book to try to like see what other people thought, and apparently there is some chatter about possibly a movie, but apparently that chatter has been going on forever. I don't know if it was an old website I found or not, but I think it would make a really good movie, like really like suspenseful thriller type of a movie, and but at the same time with this really slow build up of the really good. It's kind of like be careful what you wish for type of a scenario. Anyway, it was really good, excellent. Really, I mean. It wasn't perfect, so I'm giving it 4 stars, not 5, but still, as a 4-star, really strong 4 stars. In 1979, we have The Dead Zone. I also listened to this as an audiobook, and I really enjoyed the narrator. I was trying to find on my audiobook app, but it's gone now, so I couldn't find. I don't know who narrated it. It was an American. It was an American narrator, and he did it really well. I really liked it, and yeah. The first part of the book was excellent. Then the later part of the book, all the politics and kind of a little bit dystopian-ish. You know, I like a good political thriller. I follow politics. I like to know what's happening in politics. But I don't know. In this book, I kind of just wanted the supernatural. I just wanted Johnny and his thing that he had, and I really I saw the TV series back in 2002, and I really liked that series. I don't know if it got necessarily very good reviews, but the series is definitely different. There are some big differences from the book and in the series, but which is fine. But yeah, still, it was a good book. I really liked the parts with Johnny now waking up and having all these things that he can do, and it's very interesting for sure. So 3 stars. Then we have Firestarter, published in 1980. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, published in 1980. So this book was made into a movie 1984, in early 80s, and I think I've seen several of Stephen King's movies, or the movies made from his books, and I think that this is probably my favorite movie of his books. And I don't know how many times I've seen it several times because I really enjoy it. And the book, it was really good. It did not disappoint. I really, really enjoyed the book. I enjoyed it so much that I actually bought it in Icelandic when I saw it at the charity shop last year. Yeah, I just really like the story. I like the kind of mysterious, supernatural, like what type of a thing, psychedelic type of a thing that he sometimes writes about. So I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was the movie is very true to the book. I feel like that. That's how I feel, at least. But yeah, 5 stars for sure. So now we have actually 4 books in a row that I could not get my hands on. So there is Roadwork, published in 1981 as Richard Bachman. Couldn't find it anywhere. Cujo, published in 1981 as well. I couldn't find it anywhere. And to be honest with you, I don't think, even if I could get my hands on it, I don't think I want to read it. I saw the movie, and it scarred my heart for life. That poor dog. I don't want to read the book. I don't want to read about this poor dog. Yeah, no, thank you. So I think this is gonna be one of the books that I'm just gonna pretend don't exist and not like complete, because I can't. I really don't want to relive that experience of that poor dog. Anyway, and then there was also The Running Man, which was published in 1982 as Richard Bachman, and The Dark Tower, The Gunslinger, also published in 1982. Is that like a Western? Like, did Stephen King write a Western? I'm like so surprised. But anyway, I didn't find them. Yeah, so unfortunately I have not been able to read these books. And then there's the last book in this cluster of Stephen King books that I attempted to read, and that's Christine, published in 1983. I listened to this on audio, and I really did like it. I liked the kind of the point of view of the friend, kind of telling us the story of what was happening. But I actually did DNF it, did not finish it. And it wasn't because I didn't like it. I was just, it was now like autumn of 2022, and things got a little bit crazy at work, and I think I was also just a little bit burnt out by Stephen King. So I think that trying to read his books like all in a row is not a good idea, and I need to stop doing that. But I'm definitely gonna I want to read this book. I've seen the movie, of course, and I definitely want to read the book, and I will get to it for sure when I start back with my Stephen King challenge, reading all of his books. So here we have it, my first experience reading Stephen King. And overall, it was very fun and interesting, and I do want to read more of his work. I really want to work myself up to today, because I'm hearing a lot about his like new books that are, some of them at least, are getting really good reviews. I haven't read any of his books since 2022, like I said. You know, just burnt out. And so I definitely want to get back to it. I need to just get over this obsession of just wanting to only read this author for like a year and just kind of maybe read one book a month or like 6 books a year or something like that. I don't have to read everything at like, yeah. I need to stop doing that. But anyway, so far, I would say that I like Stephen King, and of the books that I've read, even though I haven't even given all of them, like I've given 3, 4, and 5 stars, I would actually want to own all of those books, because you can always skip the drawn out boring parts of like books that if you like other parts. So far, so good, for sure. I don't know exactly when I'm gonna take another like stab at reading Stephen King, but I'm sure I will maybe try to read a couple of books for the rest of this year, and then, you know, maybe do like once a year review of the books that I've read by Stephen King. So we'll see how that develops, but anyway, I guess that's it. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye.